Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for meeting with us. Today we are meeting with author, illustrator, animator Benson Shum, and we are specifically meeting about his new books that are coming out next year in 2024. So there's Imagine You and Me, which is coming out in January, and Mooncakes Mean Family, which is coming out in July of 2024. So Benson, can you give us a brief introduction?
Sure. Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for having me with you guys today. Yeah, so my name is Benson Shum. I'm a picture book author and illustrator. And I have about, I think, 10 books out. Well, it would be 10 books out. And I'm also an animator at Disney as my other career.
Awesome, thank you. And specifically thinking about how you have balanced animation with picture book creation. So my first question for you is, can you walk us through a normal workday for you? So balancing both animation and then book creation?
Sure. Yeah. So it's our job is like a nine to five. So that's kind of like my full-time thing doing at Disney as an animator. And then at night is when I start to start to jot down my ideas and stuff like that here and there. I feel like I don't usually sit down for like a full day to write. It's like pretty sporadic. So I'll, throughout the week or mostly on the weekends, I would, that's when I really flesh things out. During the weeknights, it's just like little ideas that I kind of put in my notebook kind of thing, anything that pops up. And then I'll flesh everything on the weekends. So that's kind of how I balance.
So weekends are your focus, like picture book time.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then, so your illustrations are mainly traditional medium. I mean, you just mentioned having a sketchbook or like putting your ideas out. And then your illustrations for your books, which I have your most currently published one, First Day of Howler Garden, which is very cute. And those are mainly watercolor and ink illustrations that are then digitally composited. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
But then your work as an animator is done with a computer with 3D animation. Mm-hmm. So what is the balance of that? And do you have a preference for any of those mediums, or are they just both equally great?
I think they're both great. They're both, they have their both advantages and everything. I think for the animation side, I'm not drawing or painting digitally. I would kind of think of it as a digital puppet that I'm moving around in the 3D space as an animator. And then for the picture books, yes, you're right, I do watercolor and ink. And I think that's kind of a nice change because, like you said, I'm on the computer all day at work. And then when I do my book stuff, I do sketch on pen and paper, but then I do scan it into the computer and finesse it a bit more there. But then when it comes to actually making the final product, I do use a light box and I ink and paint traditionally on it. So I think it's just a nice balance to do something on the computer and then just look at actual paper and paint.
Get a break from your screen time.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite children's books?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say the one that do you know Karina Lukin? And she did some amazing books, and the one that kind of stuck with me that she did was called The Book of Mistakes. And I know that was more of a recent one, but I really love that one just because I think it works on all levels of, like, starting with you're trying to make something big, but then you make a mistake, like it was like an ink blotch or something, and they kept going and going, and eventually it became something beautiful. It's kind of like the idea of never giving up kind of thing, and even the mistakes kind of give a charm to it. And I kind of approach that with especially with my paintings, because I feel like working traditionally is never going to be as perfect if you were to do it the computer, because it's so easy just to erase things digitally. But with traditional, it's like once you make that mistake, it's kind of there, and then you just keep going, and then eventually it becomes part of the painting.
There is no Control Z in the picture book world or the traditional art world, which I have accidentally tried to reach for Control Z while drawing, so sometimes forget. And that kind of reminds me, so from what I've seen of your books that you have both written and illustrated, one of the themes I see is emotional resilience. And is that something you're aiming for in your picture books then?
Is that something that I like say, oh, this is what I want to do with the character? Is just kind of organically flows in that direction, I feel. It wasn't until like someone pointed it out that, oh, it has those themes in it and within different stories. But for me, I think coming from animation, I always think about the characters, what's going on in their heads, and when I'm emoting the characters animating. So I try to do the same thing with my books, where I try to get into the character's head. How are they feeling? What are they going through? What are the conflicts? How are they going to resolve it? So I kind of approach it that way.
So with working in animation, then, so with your illustrations, then would you consider those like key poses as you would for animation for each illustration?
Yeah. Try to get the most, I guess the most emotion out of, in that, like, picture books only have 30 to 40 pages, right? So you don't have so many pages to tell the whole story. So you try to pick the right pose or emotion for this page of text.
And so for figuring out the emotion and all that, do you work in silhouette first, or do you sketch out the character fully so you have, their facial expression as well? Or are you looking more at body movement first when you were starting the illustration?
Oh yeah, it's I actually do start with the body, try to get the flow of it, the movement within the drawing, and then while I'm trying to work that out, I'm already thinking about the expression and what they're thinking. So they kind of go hand in hand, but the first thing I do start with is the body first, and then I'll add the expression like right after that. Even in sketch form.
Just blocking it in.
Yeah.
Cool. And so your book that's coming out in January, Imagine You and Me, it's about a bear and his imaginary friend, which is a human girl. So why did you choose to have a human girl as the imaginary friend of a bear cub?
I kind of, just to make something a little different, and because I know most of the stories with imaginary friends, always it's a creature of some sort, or and then the main character is a human. So I wanted to kind of flip it on its head and do the other way. But yeah, I thought that would be kind of fun to kind of showcase an animal, but with a human imaginary friend.
Yeah, the reverse perspective. It almost reminded me of the stories where the monster under the bed is the main character, and then where, that's kind of an imaginary friend, but more terrifying. But then it's the monster's perspective, and they're scared of the child, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or like, Monsters Inc. kind of thing. But, it is fun to see the other perspective. And then, so did you have an imaginary friend as a kid?
I don't remember. I'm sure I did. But I do remember just kind of like talking with like when I was playing with myself, I'll be like imaginary playing with somebody, right? So I guess, yeah, I think we all kind of have that in some form as a kid.
Or maybe did you like draw imaginary characters instead? Is that kind of an imaginary character friend?
Yeah, I guess creating characters would be an equivalent kind of thing. You're right. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah. And then your next book that's coming out, which is a little while later, is Mooncakes Mean Family, which originally when I saw the Mooncakes, I thought it would be about the Lunar New Year Festival, but it's actually about the Mid-Autumn Festival. So that's a great time for it to come out, right around when the festival is about to happen. So it's about a rabbit family that is celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival. So did your family celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival?
Yes. Yeah, we did. I think one of the things that stuck with me as a kid was the mooncakes. And because they all come in the book, we also talk about it comes in different shapes and sizes as well. And I remember as a kid there, if you go to like the Asian grocery stores, there's a shape of a pig or a rabbit, and it's wrapped in this kind of like a red plastic basket kind of thing. And it's just really cute. And, as a kid, you're like, oh, I want one of those. And then of course you can eat it as well. So yeah, we did that as as a family, and I see it with my my nieces and nephews, with my sisters and her kids, and kind of carry on the traditions and celebrating it. And it's called Mooncakes Mean Family because it's also about family getting together or friends getting together and celebrating, on top of learning about the festivities that come with the holiday.
So what are some of your favorite traditions or memories that you have besides the pig or rabbit character?
I think going to so there's usually like a lantern festival or a light festival or light show that happens in the gardens kind of thing. So that's always kind of fun to kind of go and check out to see what type of light stuff. Some they have light shaped flowers or rabbits, and some places even like dragons and stuff like that. So I think that's always a fun thing to do at night.
Yeah. No, I remember also seeing that for Buddha's birthday. They also have like the Lantern Festival, which is always really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, always very fun designs. And for the characters in your books too, they tend to be pretty gentle souls. Like you don't see them being the fierce ones. In fact, like in your other book, Anzu the Great Kaiju, it's the fierce ones are kind of that's the struggle that Anzu has to go against. And they tend to feel things differently. So what draws you to these characters and stories?
I think because I'm kind of like that myself. I lean more towards the gentle side. I think I was always kind of like the outcast. I felt like, well, I don't know if I felt like the outcast. Growing up, I struggled with English, even though I grew up in Canada. But I grew up speaking so much Chinese with my grandparents and my parents that when I actually went to school, my English just wasn't quite there. So I needed help with that. So I felt like I was always behind. And I think those kind of stories that I tend to write is to showcase those type of characters that sometimes maybe get not as much attention, but are of course like are just as important to and showcase that side of things as well. So I think maybe that's why I tend to write from that perspective more, to give a voice for the ones that don't usually get heard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not just to have like the brave warriors that are out fighting with their flaming sword and all that. The ones that are doing the thinking and the feeling. So no, that totally makes sense. And being ESL, did you ever like go to the library? Do you have any memories from the library being a part of your childhood as well?
Yes, definitely. I did go to the library a lot. My mom would take me and my sisters to the library pretty often, and I think that really kind of cemented me into the love of books as well. My sister was a big reader. I read, but not as much as she did. Like she bought stacks of books. I would borrow stacks of books, but I'll be looking more at the pictures kind of thing. So it grew towards the art side. But I think even then, I'm also learning about storytelling, just even through the visual side of it. And I think my mom was also an English teacher back in Hong Kong. So I think she really did want us to be surrounded by books a lot. So I think the library was a really big part of us growing up. And because they came from Hong Kong, that there probably were some Chinese books as well, but I think they wanted us to also be surrounded by books to also learn English as well.
Yeah, to get that immersion and build those skills. So, which, it's tough. And like, so do you think your brain now, do you think in two different languages?
Not as much now. I did before. And I feel like as I get older, I am trying to speak my native language a bit more as well. Because my parents' English are fine, but I want to also practice as well. So when I do go back, I do go to Canada, try to speak with them as much as possible in Chinese. But I do mix back and forth because sometimes I don't have the vocabulary. So I would mix it with English. Yeah.
Speak. Is it Cantonese then or Mandarin?
It's Cantonese.
Cantonese, yeah. So Cantonese-lish.
Yeah.
Spanglish. Very cool. Yeah. We're always trying to have more like language books with like BiblioLotus team. So yeah. Did they have that at the Canadian libraries that you went to where there were a lot of language books available?
Yeah. I would think even more so now than when we were growing up. So it's pretty amazing that it's the library. Yeah. Thank you for what you do. It's incredible that people have access to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We wouldn't even have any books if we didn't have author illustrators like you. And do you think you'll ever do a bilingual book then?
Maybe. Yeah. I haven't thought about it. But possibly. Like I know. Well, in Alex's Good Fortune, in this one, I do have Chinese characters and pronunciations in there as well that people can learn, whether you're a native speaker or not. So. And it's a great way to kind of learn about the culture through language and through the foods and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah. And also like about other projects. So when you look at your books, you do have, your full spreads and also just like one-page illustrations, but you've also got these pages that are more like a graphic novel where you've got your panel set up. So do you ever think that you'll be writing a graphic novel in the future or creating one?
Yeah. I'm kind of working on right now, just developing it right now. And I think it'd be kind of fun to kind of explore that side of things. So I do love the paneling aspects. I feel like you can tell a different way to kind of see the characters emote kind of thing. And I read a lot of comic books growing up as a kid as well. So it's like merging both, I love the full spreads and the single pages and vignettes from picture books, but I also love the paneling, and I tend to do that in picture books just to kind of mix it up, so it has a different feel to it also.
Yeah, and you do see that trend more in picture books I see these days, where you do have that the graphic novels coming into the picture books with paneling and just to be able to see the like time passing with the panel. So it would be great to see more of those books like that, but to also see like a full graphic novel. But that is a lot more work. So
it is. Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 times more, like amount of pages as well. Yeah.
And some of those, they're pretty thick. I've seen them, and it's like I have no idea how you finish this whole thing. But props to you for getting all of that.
I have no idea as well. I talked to Marin, like I don't know how you do it.
And then, so not just from the picture book side, but who are some artistic folks that inspire you?
So I'm really drawn to colors. And so most of my picture books do have a lot of like either like brighter colors and color palettes. Like I love Mary Blair's work. I'm not sure you're familiar with her work. Yeah. She's okay, so you're familiar, and like big Disney artist, and I think she was so ahead of her time, like as far as even like design and colors and stuff, because she was creating color combinations that was just kind of unusual back then, but now everybody somehow references her work. So I think she's a big inspiration for me. Quentin Blake, his line work in the whole like Roald Dahl universe and stuff like that. There's just so much life in just the simplicity of his lines, but it takes so much work just to get that feel to it, even though it looks simple, but there's a lot of feeling into it, and I feel like his work is a big inspiration for me as well.
And then, so when you're working, do you like listen to any podcasts or anything like that inspire you, or any music that inspires you as well?
Not usually podcasts. I would say I'll probably listen to more music. something that's kind of in the mood of what I'm painting usually. If not something, I just put on like a movie that I've seen before, so it almost becomes background music, so it's not quiet. Yeah, because I like to work with some sort of noise in the background. I don't know if you do the same thing, or I don't know. For me, is I like something in the background.
Yes. No, I do too. Although I also will play video game walkthroughs in the background.
Yeah, that's good.
But only video games that I've actually watched before, so I already know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? It's something that's familiar. So because if it's new, then you're like, wait, what's happening? And then you kind of like
pay attention to the story or what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it's always fun to see that kind of stuff where it's like, oh, like what inspires you? I know there are people that can listen to lyrics. If it is something of music, does it have lyrics in it, or is it mostly just orchestral?
Yeah, no, I do listen to with lyrics. I also listen to music that is not in English, so I don't necessarily know what they're saying, but I think in general, even if it's like music in English, I don't necessarily listen to the lyrics. I would just listen to the music and the beat, and the lyrics kind of like I have to I don't know if for me I have to concentrate what they're saying, or else for me it's just sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I prefer electronic music, or just instruments, because or else you're like, oh, like I have to know what they're saying.
Yeah.
All right. So we have the 2 books coming out next year. Is there anything you want to share about like the process for making these books specifically?
Let's see. I actually have some color proofs. Do you want to see them?
That would be awesome.
I don't have the proofs for the Mooncake book, but I do have. It's kind of fun to get these in the mail. So I like seeing these like colors. But essentially, it's like this is what they send to us, the publisher, so that we kind of get an idea of how the color looks like, and then we can make changes to it, and also the paper, the thickness, and what type of paper they're thinking of using. But what's interesting is that sometimes, so this is like a spread in the book, but it usually should be together. So I've never had a proof where they separated them 2 together. Usually it's like one big one. But for this one was really fun because I was trying to get that yellow buttery color for Randall, which is the bear, and it was kind of fun to kind of see what it comes out in print, because I don't know if you realize that when it's printed on something like that's like a matte paper, the color is the ink kind of like absorbs more, so it's usually kind of not as vibrant as if it was more of a glossy feel. Then the colors should be more vibrant, so it just gives a different feel. So that was kind of fun to see and test. I want to share also this painting here, which is the title page. So initially, this was a drawing that I actually did for fun, and that was what inspired the story. Actually, it was actually Randall was actually like a more of a pink bear, same glasses, same shape, and everything, and Parker was the same as well. But when I was starting to play with colors, I wanted them to pop color-wise. So then I changed Randall to be more of a buttery yellow color. So sometimes I never know if the painting comes first and then the story comes after, or vice versa. But I think for this one, the painting came first, story came after, and then for the Mooncake book, the painting actually came first as well. I was painting a bunny sitting on top of a mooncake during the Mid-Autumn Festival, and then my agent saw the painting. She's like, "Oh, do you have a story to that kind of thing?" So then that's when we thought, maybe we can do like a kind of like Alex's Good Fortune, where we kind of introduce and talk about the festivities that go along with the holidays, and that's kind of how that book came about as well.
For the Imagine You and Me one, then, was the bear always the real one then? Or in that illustration, did you have no idea it was just a bear and a kid?
I didn't know it was just the bear and a kid like going to school. Yeah.
It's very cute. So I mean, it
Thank you.
works.
Thank
And
you.
then you had the twist where it's like, aha, like the bear is the child.
Thank
That worked out really well.
you.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with me, Benson, and for meeting with all of the patrons at the Pima County Public Library. And as a reminder, the Imagine You and Me will be coming out January 2024. And so you will be able to see that in bookstores and also at your public library. And then Mooncakes Mean Family will be coming out in July 2024. And absolutely, we will be having that at the Pima County Public Library as well. And I'm sure you'll be able to find it in bookstores too.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Megan, and speaking with you today. I also want to add, I do have activities to go with all my books, and with these books coming out as well, under activities on my website. And also, it's not it hasn't been announced like publicly yet, but it's coming. I do have another book that's in the realm of Alex's Good Fortune and Mooncakes, but this one's called We Are Lion Dancers. And that one talks about the kind of like what line dance represents, kind of thing. So that would be kind of fun. That hopefully you'll like as well. It's the same format as Mooncakes as well. So
no, I'm sure I'll love it, and I'm sure that all of our readers will love it as well. So yeah, we'll look out for the Lion Dance book, and we will have a link on our website for the activities so that people can try those out. Well, thank you again, Benson.
Thank you so much, Megan. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.